My name is Kelly Brown. I've been married for 15 years, and I work as a nurse at a general hospital. Every day, I work either way, day shift, evening shift, and night shift. Though I became a nurse inspired by Florence Nightingale, the responsibility of holding people's lives in my hands means it always keeps me on my toes. Yet, I love my job. The biggest supporter of me is my husband. He has always encouraged me to work. It has led to us having separate bedrooms due to our different lifestyles. Despite this, we have 2 children. Both of them are girls. When we had our kids, my husband said, "It would be a waste for you to quit your job for the kids. I'll quit my job and take on the parenting and housekeeping roles, so you can continue with your job. I love seeing you work." I appreciate my husband, and thanks to him, I was able to continue working without being overwhelmed by household chores even after our children were born. I never wanted to be a housewife since I was young, and honestly I always hoped I could have one, so he was the ideal partner for me. We are still in love and get along very well. However, as our daughters got middle school, my husband decided to work too. There's still housework, so I'll work from home. It'll be less income, though. Income was never a concern for me. What mattered most was that he could live a fulfilling life. But after he started working, our children mentioned, "Dad sometimes goes out at night and doesn't come back." I couldn't believe that. He always puts the children first. Even so, the suspicion of him grows. So, I started observing my husband more closely, and indeed, I noticed that something was wrong. I hired a detective to investigate. One day, a nurse working in the examination room was absent because of a sudden fever, and they needed extra help due to being short-staffed. Having previously worked in the examination room, I was asked to help out. Time passed while I felt nostalgic, but something new for the examination room. The OB/GYN examination room is a treasure trove of happiness. Everyone here, with their big bellies, prays for the well-being of their borning child, cherishes the life growing inside them, and smiles happily. The OB/GYN department is really wonderful. I, working in surgery, thought like that. I was like that once, too. A patient's name was called, and a couple walked in. But the moment I saw the husband, I hid behind a curtain. It was my husband. I knew about my husband's affair from a detective's report. I also knew that his lover was pregnant and that she was being treated at this hospital. But I was upset because they showed up suddenly. I decided to ask for a change of position for a while. However, this was a rare opportunity. Should I really just let it pass without doing anything? A new conflict arose within me, and by the time the consultation was over, I made up my mind. The 2 of them were likely sitting in the waiting room and waiting for their results. I brought myself to grab the result and opened the door to the examination room. As expected, the 2 of them were sitting there, looking happy. "Mrs. Smith, May Smith." The woman's name was May Smith. She's 30. Much younger than me, with a vibrant expression. And seemingly devoid of any care in the world. So this was his type. Yes. She raised her hand and looked at me. Then my husband saw me and exclaimed in surprise, "Why are you here?" It's natural for him to be surprised. I hadn't told him that I was here today. I would have if I had known beforehand, but it was unexpected. The woman looked at my husband with curiosity and asked, "Do you know her?" I knew him too well to even know how to respond. But this is a hospital. My workplace. I can't create a stir here. I smiled politely and answered the woman. "Just an acquaintance, really. Here's your diagnosis." "Oh, is that so? Thank you. Actually, he and I aren't married yet." "Is that right?" "Yeah, but we want to get married before the baby comes." "Right?" Yeah, sure." "Oh, that's interesting. We're in an age gap relationship, which is a bit embarrassing, but we met on a dating app. Despite the age difference, he's really kind." I did not need to know that. The woman happily shared things I hadn't asked for. I gave my husband a cold look. I've been having tough morning sickness. So, I thought about taking a leave from work during this time, and when I told my company, they asked me to bring a diagnosis. Yeah, some companies are like that. Really? I was so surprised they needed one now, even though they already knew I was pregnant. I thought only my company was like that. But he says I should rest if it's too hard. What do you do for work? I'm a banker, but I just can't stand the smell of money right now. Maybe this baby hates money. So, are you planning to quit your job after the baby is born? I'm still thinking about it. If I have someone to look after the baby, I should work. I don't want to put all the burden on him. That's nice, you seem like a wonderful wife. My husband had turned pale. Given that his wife and mistress were right in front of him, it's understandable his complexion would change, but he looked especially uncomfortable. What does your husband do for work? He's a judge. A judge? That's a big claim to make. He doesn't even know the first thing about law. What you're doing should be judged in its own right. Yeah, so he's really busy, and we hardly get to go on dates. That must be difficult. Knowing the truth, I felt like I was about to burst out in rage. I'm going to the restroom. Being pregnant needs to go all the time. She said that and stood up to go to the bathroom. My husband stood up as if to follow her, but I followed him and I talked to him around the waiting area. What are you doing? What do you mean? Weren't you supposed to be working from home? Well, today just happened to be the day you're accompanying your lover to her appointment? No, it's not like that. Oh, getting married, huh? You know this could be bigamy, right? It's not like that. I'll explain everything when I get home. You thought I didn't know? If you're gonna do it, at least do it right not to get caught. Okay. Saying that, I quickly returned to the examination room. Anger is coming up, and my heart feels like it's about to burst out of my chest. If it were allowed, I'd scream right now. But of course, that's not possible. I need to stay calm. Even though I tell myself that, staying calm is the last thing I can do. When I went back to the examination room, my colleague noticed my pale face. I was suggested to take a break in the break room. After buying a coffee and sitting down, tears started to flow. When I read the detective's report, I didn't get upset like that. I didn't cry like this. I thought I had accepted the reality calmly, regretting he was that kind of man. But seeing him with his lover, facing the reality that she's pregnant, and seeing their happy faces, it all just crumbled. Why? Why does he bring his lover to the hospital where I work? Did he think I would be in the surgical department today? Even so, there are plenty of obstetrics and gynecology departments around. Why this hospital? Why today? Why do they look so happy? He has his own children, how can he look so content with his lover? This is ridiculous. The tears wouldn't stop, dropping into my coffee cup and disturbing the surface. It felt just like my unsettled heart. At night, after somehow finishing my work, I went home. Surely, my husband would be preparing dinner. My daughters would have already returned home. What kind of face should I put on in such a situation? What if the kids find out about this? I don't want them to be sad. As I opened the front door, something smelled really delicious. Tonight's dinner is meatloaf. Normally, I'd be delighted and head straight to the kitchen, but today, I just couldn't muster any enthusiasm. Entering the living room and saying so tiredly, "I'm home," was all I could do. My husband, as always, turned around in his apron without any change in his demeanor. "Welcome back, dinner will be ready soon." He acted as if nothing had happened. It made me feel like I was the only one who had stepped into another world. I felt nauseous at the sight of his back. I rushed to the bathroom and forced myself to vomit into the toilet. Yellow liquid soiled the bowl. Sitting on the floor, staring blankly into the toilet bowl, I thought, not yet. There's still more to investigate. If I'm going to do this, I need to do it thoroughly. After flushing the toilet, I made up my mind. The next day, my day off, I saw my husband off to a meeting. In the end, he didn't say anything. He probably plans to let it all fade away if I don't bring it up. But I won't let it go unresolved. I went into my husband's room and checked the account of expenses. Even if he's not a judge, he must be working at something. If he really is working, there should be income, and it should be recorded in it. My husband isn't the type to manage multiple banks. He dislikes complications and has decided to stick to just one bank. If there's no income here, that means he's not working, right? I flipped through the account of expenses with a pounding heart. But there was no sign of any deposits in the account of my husband, who claimed to be working from home. What? What does that mean? No deposits mean he's not working? Then how is he affording to meet that woman? Even cheating requires money. I sat on the bed. I thought carefully about my husband's behavior up until now. We're short on living expenses. Can you put in an extra $300 this month? Since I had been giving him only money for living expenses, he frequently complained about being short. Considering the rise in living costs, I didn't think much of it. Conversations among housewives were all about how expensive vegetables or meat were. Another time, he asked me for money for kids. We need to buy new clothes and shoes for Natalie and Hannah. Kids grow so fast, you know. He asked for money while laughing and I handed it over without hesitation. Could it be that money? I want Natalie and Hannah to take a private tutor's class. Could you give us an extra $500 a month? They need to start thinking about high school entrance exams soon. Indeed, a private tutor seemed necessary. But now that I think about it, I'm not sure if $500 for both kids is too much or too little. Lately, he's been saying, I feel bad asking every month, so could I get an extra $1,000 instead? I just handed it over as he asked, but where has all that money gone? The more I think about it, the less it makes sense. Was all the money I gave him used for his affairs? No, not yet. I can't jump to conclusions just yet. At that moment, the kids came home. I hurried over to them. Welcome back. What about your tutoring? Huh? Tutoring? What's that? What? Aren't you going to tutoring? No, we're not. When we asked Dad about the private tutor, he said if we listened to our teachers properly, we shouldn't need it. Really? What about the new clothes and shoes? Didn't Dad buy them for you? Nope, he didn't, right? Yeah. He didn't. We only have one pair of shoes for school and one for everyday wear. Even when we ask Dad to buy, he never does. Is it true? Why are you asking about this? So, he didn't buy any textbooks either? Nope. He always says, the school textbooks should be enough. Dad's catchphrase is, luxury is the enemy. Yet, Dad often goes out, especially when you're not around. It's unfair that he's always going out. The children's innocent laughter contained words hinting at my husband's affair. I was stunned, yet I felt everything was becoming clear. So, it was all the money I got from me. He's been cheating while making me work. I've got no regret for such a man. The two worryingly looked into my angry face. I told the kids. I've decided to get a divorce. Why? Because of Dad's affair? What? I thought Mom was too busy with work to notice. You guys knew? Of course, we noticed. It's hard not to when it's done so openly. What do you mean? Dad brings the women home when you're not around. Then, she cooks and we all eat and play together. When we are in our own room, they watch TV happily. This is her. Hannah said, showing me a photo from her smartphone. It was a picture of my husband and a woman, shoulder to shoulder. Why do you have such a photo? I thought we might need proof for the cheating. You were thinking about that? Of course. Nowadays, everyone knows from watching stuff on YouTube that you need evidence for a divorce. It's actually quite helpful. Kids these days are learning such things. I didn't want to experience being divorced, and it used to be a big deal when I was a child, but now it has become a familiar affair. Well, if we didn't know Dad was cheating, a divorce of parents would be big news. But a woman, not Mom, frequently comes into our house. It makes us start considering. But we couldn't tell Mom. Why not? It seemed cruel to let you know about this even though you work hard for us. Also, some say affairs end eventually. Yeah, we thought if it's gonna end anyway, maybe it's not necessary for you to know. I thought they were just kids, but the kids had been thinking deeply. I didn't expect that he would let his lover into my house. And playing with my children, that's unforgivable. Hey, if Mom and Dad were to divorce, who would you choose to stay with? That's obvious. Mom. Me too, Mom. Going with Dad would mean living in poverty. After all, Dad's basically unemployed. Why do you say unemployed? Dad's supposed to be a remote worker, right? You're the only one who thinks that, Mom. Dad claims to be working from home, but actually he spends all day on the computer. I checked his browsing history when he wasn't around, and it was full of pictures of naked women. He's not researching anything serious at all. Exactly. I saw his email open once. I think it was some dating app, but he was messaging women. Dad's so careless, he doesn't even shut down his computer before cooking. It's practically an invitation to take a look. Yeah, that's so Dad. I've seen it too, his really sloppy management. Does he think it's okay to be seen or what? Whenever you're not around, he's always either chatting with women on his computer or his phone. It's like, watching Dad just reminds me of how dumb guys can be. I don't want to marry someone like Dad. Probably Dad's girlfriend is someone he picked up from a dating site, right? It's kinda creepy. So, you're okay with us splitting up? Yeah, of course. Mom's working hard for the family, and I think you should not forgive him. I think so too. But I can't agree to moving. Me neither. I don't want to be separated from my friends. And it would mean changing schools too. Okay, I understand. I didn't realize that my daughters have grown up so they were able to express their own thoughts clearly. But to think about how much they must have struggled and suffered to reach this conclusion. Seeing their father's lover and not knowing what to do must have been incredibly painful. And my husband does such a thing so carelessly. He is unforgivable. I thought to myself. After a while, my husband came home. He carried a bag of groceries as if he went shopping. I'm home. In a good mood, he started to prepare dinner in the kitchen. Stop cooking. Let's talk for a moment. But I need to get dinner ready, the kids must be hungry. It's okay, they can wait. This is more important, please sit down. As I said that, my husband reluctantly sat down on the sofa with an uneasy look. I placed a divorce paper in front of him and quietly said, let's get a divorce. I thought since you've been quiet all this time, you wanted to avoid making waves. But, it's come to this, huh? Of course. Because your lover has a baby, isn't splitting up the best option? Well, I've been bracing myself since that day at the hospital. But still, why were you in the obstetrics and gynecology examination room? You work in the surgical ward, don't you? Yes, I usually work in the surgical ward. But that day, the obstetrics and gynecology department was short-staffed, and they requested help. So, being experienced, I went. Then I wish you could have told me. Why? Why did I have to tell you that? If you had told me, I wouldn't have gone there. But you suddenly showed up, and I was shocked. I was shocked too. I didn't expect that you would appear with your pregnant mistress. If that place wasn't a hospital, you and she would have been torn apart by now. That's scary. Then sign this. I was prepared for you to say that, but I've never thought about getting a divorce. Can't you jump to conclusions a bit less hastily? What? Besides, you don't know for sure if I'm really in that kind of relationship with her, right? There's no evidence. How else would you interpret what she said at the hospital? That clearly meant she was in a relationship with you, intending to marry. I don't know how you understood her words, but that's not what I was thinking. And how can you say for certain that we're in that kind of relationship? His words were unbelievable. Despite overwhelming evidence from the hospital, he still insisted he wasn't having an affair. So, you're saying you haven't cheated? Yeah, of course. I haven't cheated. Okay. So, you'll admit it if there's evidence? If there's evidence, yes. How could he be so confident? He didn't seem fazed at all. Then, I placed the detective's report in front of him. It contained decisive moments of him and the woman entering a hotel. Can you still deny it with this? Why? No, that's different. Just entering doesn't prove anything happened. Entering means something happened. No, she just felt sick and went in. That can happen, right? That's impossible. At that moment, the daughters came out of their room and showed me the photo they had shown me earlier. My husband could not say anything to that. What now? No matter how much you deny, you can't argue with this, right? This background is this room, isn't it? The kids have seen you bringing women many times, even having meals together. It was just a meal together. Enough already. Why would a woman who has no relation to us enter our house, cook, feed the kids, and take such a happy photo together? Maybe we had a few drinks, who knows? Enough. We're getting a divorce. With all this evidence, it's clear you've committed cheating. I'll be asking for child support. That's impossible. I'm not working. No need to panic now. I knew you weren't working. But that doesn't matter. You said you were making some income from your remote work. Yeah, but it's not simple. Then you'll have to find a way to work harder. I have a weak mental state. I can't work. That's irrelevant. I have no intention of divorcing. And I'm not planning to marry her either. Huh? Even though you got her pregnant, you have no plans to marry? Then why let her into our house and have her cook? She wanted to come over. If she wants to, why not? You think that excuse will work? Whatever others think, that's just how I see things. Then why only when I'm not around? There's no need to play house without me. She's a bit unusual. You're the unusual one. If that's what you think, fine. The child in her belly is yours, right? If you have no intention to marry, what are you planning to do with the child? I thought I'd raise the child. Huh? By yourself? No, with you. I couldn't believe that. Does he suppose to separate a child from their mother even though she's right here? If it's cruel to separate them from their mother, why not just live together? That would solve everything. You think that's acceptable? I don't have an income. I can't afford to leave you. Raising children costs money. Why not marry her and raise the child together? She probably wants to be a stay-at-home mom. I almost went crazy. The kids are also tilting their heads. Realizing we were getting nowhere, I decided to involve her in a video call. But would she even agree to join a call out of the blue? Though I had my doubts, it was necessary to move the conversation forward. It turned out my worries were unnecessary. When I introduced myself as his wife, she was genuinely surprised but responded sincerely. You're his wife? I had no idea he had a wife. I knew about the children, but I was told their mother had passed away and he was raising them alone. What a lie! How could he come up with such a lie? That's why I sometimes came to your house to cook. Of course, I also wanted to get along with the children, hoping it would lead to marriage sooner. From her story, she didn't seem like a bad person. Did you know he plans to take the child after you give birth and raise it here? What? I had no idea. I thought we were going to get married. So, it's just something he thought of on his own. I know I might not have the right to say this, but can you give me your husband? Huh? I don't mind. I want a divorce anyway. But you know he doesn't work, right? He's unemployed. And the kids say they're staying with me. He's a man with no benefits to you. I've heard he likes to take care of the house. If he's willing to be a house husband, that's fine by me. Huh? I've always wanted a house husband if possible. But men always think about work. Being unemployed works out for me. It seems she's the same type as me. If that's the case, no returns, he's all yours. But I'll be asking for child support. Is that okay? I'm breaking up another family, so of course, that's only fair. I can't say I'll pay whatever you want, but we can negotiate a fair payment. How much more constructive she was compared to discussing anything with my husband. True to form for someone who prefers working over being a stay-at-home wife. I promised to hand over my husband to his lover and ended the call. Your lover says she wants you. No way. I don't want to work. Don't worry, she seems to like trash like you. Trash? Right? Making your wife work while you cheat. Even making a child, yet denying the affairs, saying nonsensical things. If that's not trash, what is? But it's your lucky day, someone's willing to pick you up. You just didn't want to divorce because it meant you'd have to work, right? You knew? You are really trash, huh? Well, it's fine. She said her ideal is someone who'd stay at home, like you. Good for you. Huh? Yeah, I guess. Knowing his situation wouldn't change except for the wife, my husband happily signed the divorce papers. 3 years later, with no word from Tom, I assumed he was probably happy. But apparently, that wasn't true when one day, he showed up at my door with his children. It seems he wanted a slave under the guise of a housewife. Tom looked very tired. I was surprised and I listened to his story, but it seemed he was living under a tyrant. But he chose his life himself. I wished him luck and sent him on his way. After all, he was supposed to be a housewife, he would manage somehow. Especially since he had betrayed me, he deserved at least this much punishment. However, 5 years later, I met Tom again, holding his children's hands and carrying another child, while his wife, in high heels and full makeup, walked beside him. Tom, completely exhausted, his hair a mess, and carrying a large mom bag, looked pitiful. If the children caused any trouble, Tom got hit with the wife's bag. No matter how much the kids cried or misbehaved, she completely ignored them. Admirably thorough, I couldn't help but commend her, even as a fellow woman. With this, cheating is the least of his worries. As for me, my daughters have grown up, the older one became a nurse like me. The younger one seems to have already found someone to marry, a hard worker. As for me, I'm living happily with my